Hello and welcome to our first deck spotlight from the Descent of Dragons expansion featuring Pirate Warrior. A classic deck from a previous age of Hearthstone, this is the first time we have seen it have any real competitive potential in almost 2 years. As the epitome of an aggro deck, Pirate Warrior's true calling is to hit your opponent's face, but playing the deck at a high level can oftentimes be surprisingly intricate. In this video, we will provide you with a general overview of the deck's mechanics, and we'll teach you how to adjust your play for each sort of matchup you might face, as well as how to mulligan. However, before we get into that, make sure you are subscribed to the channel for lots of upcoming Descent of Dragons content. Enjoy the video! Pirate Warrior is an aggro deck which uses strong early game minions and pirate synergies to control and snowball early boards, and uses weapons to at first maintain that board control and then to later push for lethal damage. In the average Pirate Warrior win, you will be looking to close the game out by turn 7 or 8 at the latest, but the deck does have a few good value tools which will allow you to make the occasional aggro mirror a drawn-out resource battle. The Descent of Dragons cards which have made this deck a major factor in the early stages of this meta are Ankar, Parachute Brigand, and Skybarge. Ankar is simply an overpowered weapon which provides you nice efficient board clears but also draws you 3 cards for 3 mana. This card is one of the deck's best in almost every matchup, and your win rate will spike dramatically when you draw it in the early game. Skybarge is a 3 mana 2/5 mech which holds the same function as Ship's Cannon does in the wild version of Pirate Warrior. If you can make it stick or play it from a hand in the same turn as a pirate or two, it is a great board control tool and also pushes a bit of valuable chip damage. It is also a must-remove threat for your opponent, which is important as well. Parachute Brigand is the deck's other major power spike. It is hard to overestimate the power of summoning minions for free in the first few turns of a game, and you want to mulligan rather aggressively for this card in every matchup. These 3 standout cards are supported by some other solid cards from the expansion, such as Blazing Battle Mage, Sky Raider, and Horde Pillager that help round out the deck's identity as a streamlined aggro deck. Normally there are 4 different archetypes to think about when talking about a deck's matchups: aggro, mid-range, combo, and control, but with Pirate Warrior these can be separated into 2 groups. In the first group are virtually all control, combo, and mid-range decks, as you will generally play the same way against all of them. The second group consists of your aggro matchups, where you will be forced to adjust your game plan on a game-by-game basis and be put in tough situations where your win condition is sometimes unclear. Let's begin with Group 1. In these matchups, Pirate Warrior functions like a traditional aggro deck. You want to snowball the board as fast as possible, hold on to it while making the minimum amount of trades you can afford to, and then if you lose that board control, you have to close out the game with weapons and charge minions. In the mid-range matchups, you need to do a little bit more trading, and in the control and combo matchups, you need to look for more opportunities to ignore minions in order to push chip damage, but other than minor differences like that, games will feel rather similar to each other. Next, let's move on to the more complicated aggro mirrors. You are not exclusively the aggressor or the reactive player, but will change roles from game to game depending on the specific matchup and your hand context. For the first 3 turns of the game, you will always be fighting for board and making efficient trades whenever possible, but after that you need to start analyzing your potential to fight for board every turn. Part 1 of this is to think about your hand. If you have cards like South Sea Captain, Ankar, and Frothing Berserker, your win condition is usually through board control, but if you have tools like Arcanite Reaper, Korkron Elite, or Upgrade, you often have to abandon board early on to set up 3 or 4 turn lethals from hand. The other important thing is to think about the opponent's potential answers to each play. If a shaman is going into a likely Thunderhead turn, you are disincentivized to fight for a board that is already likely lost, but if the shaman has already used their Thunderhead, you can take efficient trades and try to limit their ability to race for lethal. There is rarely one clear path to take for Pirate Warrior in an aggro mirror, and learning to identify your win conditions in any given situation is possibly the most important part of mastering this archetype. Mulligans with Pirate Warrior can be a little bit complex at times. The easy part is that you want to be keeping your value-oriented 1-drops and your best cards in every matchup and hand context, but past that it's a little bit harder. The most important thing in Pirate Warrior is to have a curve, and even a subpar curve is often good enough to compete effectively in the early game. This means keeping Bloodsail Raider when you have a 1-drop but throwing it away when you don't, and sometimes it even means keeping Upgrade to play on turn 1 in order to curve into that Bloodsail Raider. You want to be keeping your 3-drops when you have a 1 into 2 curve already, or when you are on the coin with a 1-drop but throwing them away if you don't meet those conditions. Always keep Ankar no matter the hand context, and always keep Skybarge if you are on the coin. A major exception to this set of rules we just laid out is that you should be keeping every pirate which costs 3 or less when you already have a Parachute Brigand in hand, even if you are not sure you are curving out into it perfectly. Overall, the most important things to remember are to mulligan for curves even when they might look a little bit awkward, to always keep the power spike cards we listed, and to remember the specific synergies which make your cards strong, and adjust your base mulligan strategy when these synergies are present in your opening hand. This brings us to the end of our Pirate Warrior deck spotlight. While it's impossible to tell if Pirate Warrior will stick around, the deck seems powerful so far and at the very least is refreshing to play. We hope that you have learned some valuable information which will help you optimize your win rate with this deceptively complex aggro deck, and we want to remind you to be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for plenty of upcoming Descent of Dragons analysis. See you next time!